One Piece is on break, which means it's time for me to talk about the last 3 chapters that we've had. And it's so much good stuff has been happening in this arc. I've been enjoying this arc so much. I want to start with the scenery because Oda is so intentional and specific about his world building, and this world has been so much fun so far. First of all, I love having a sci-fi-esque setting in this nautical pirate fantasy world. I love the concept that Vegapunk is so intelligent, such a mastermind, and so creative that he doesn't have enough time to complete all of his inventions, so he's now split himself into pieces in order to accomplish creating more inventions. But because he is so aggressively creating inventions, the most important person, or one of the most important people to the world government, has a budget that's stretched so thin that the evil version of his split self is being a pirate, is thieving, is scooping people out of the sea so that she can steal from. Like, I think that's hilarious. Like, I imagine Vegapunk's budget is quite large. I imagine that he's important enough and his inventions are important enough to the people that have him in their usage that they want to give him a lot of money. But he will not stop inventing, to the point that he's splitting himself so that he can invent more. And he's still just like, I don't have enough to accomplish all that I want to accomplish. And I think that's brilliant. I also think the way he split himself is really fascinating. I think it's interesting that we have Vegapunk at the top, but then we have his 6 pieces of himself that he's split, and they're labeled the good, the evil, the violent, and so on. And I wonder how this is split up. Is it that the reason they're different ages, but they're all young, that we've seen so far, is because we're looking at percentages? Like, this much of him is good, so she's 26. This much of him is evil, so she's like maybe just 20. And then the violent side of Vegapunk is tiny, 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 tiny. There's really not a lot of it, which is why this version of Vegapunk looks 6. But then why is this version of Vegapunk also gigantic? Like, what's the logic here? Also, why are the different pieces of Vegapunk female? I mean, there might be some variation in here, but all the Vegapunk branches that we've seen so far are female. Why? I don't know. It's fascinating, and I'm looking for answers. But so far, what Oda has been doing in these chapters in this arc has been half lore and building on the greater mysteries of One Piece and setting up for what I think is going to be an absolute avalanche of reveals, and then half amazing, silly, exciting Straw Hat moments and continuing the plot that we've been following all this time. And I'm really, really loving the balance that he's taking. I'm loving this carefree, fun world that we're exploring right now that will absolutely definitely turn dark very, very quickly, because that's what Oda does. We enter islands, they look fun, and then we realize that it's terrible and everybody is sad. And we're already seeing hints of that. And it's tying into the greater world and the greater lore. And it's great. I'm just having a great time. This has been awesome. But before we start digging into and obsessing over all of that, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Vessi, the waterproof sneakers. You may already know this about me if you follow me on Instagram, but I am a big hiker. Basically, any opportunity I get, I'm finding new trails and exploring new spots in my area. Me and my family love going on hikes, and Vessi has been awesome. They're super comfortable, extremely lightweight. They have Dymatex, which is a dual climate knit material to keep you cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And it's 100% waterproof. For real, I jumped in this stream at least 10 times trying to get this shot, and while my pants got soaked, my socks were completely dry. I'm honestly super impressed with these shoes. I've taken them on several hikes since getting them. They're so comfortable, they're so breathable, and I'm not worried about walking through streams or, hopping on rocks in order to keep my socks dry. It's been amazing. It's been awesome. So check out Vessi using the link vessi.com/Murphy and use my code Murphy to get $25 off each pair of adult Vessi shoes. I highly recommend them. I have been loving them. Back to the obsessing. And when the Straw Hats do first meet Vegapunk, my favorite, I mean, we see them all, or this version of Vegapunk, the evil version, we get to see their reactions, and we kind of have those standard, typical Straw Hat kind of reactions, which is fun. But my favorite, well, I have a couple favorites. One of my favorites is Frankie, who goes into full fanboy mode, and I'm really happy that we're getting such an emphasis on the fact that Frankie has been there, has been to Vegapunk's original island, and that he's an inventor, and that he does his own body modifications, and Vegapunk has been a part of body modifications. You know, like there's a lot of tie-ins between Frankie and Vegapunk, and I love seeing Frankie see who is someone who is probably his hero and being like, I have so much to show you. I have so much I want to talk to you about, and he's just so excited. And then you have Robin, who's the voice of reason, as always, who's like, you know, I've heard a lot about this guy, and he's usually a guy and old, so that doesn't work. I also love whenever Lilith the evil says, no, I'm obviously not the primary Vegapunk. I'm the evil one. I'm here to steal from you because I need more money. I love that the good, Shaka the good, is in Lilith's ear saying, come on, man. Like, I love this idea that Shaka is just the good version of Vegapunk, is connected to all the other Vegapunks, just aggressively trying to put some sort of morality on them, you know? Like, Lilith is out here pirating, and Shaka's like, we shouldn't do this, stop, but it's fruitless because Lilith is evil. Anyway, it's awesome too when Shaka says, are you an idiot? You know who this crew is, yet you still want to attack them? Look at that guy back there, looking at you all menacingly. Yeah, he's gonna kill you. You're gonna die. And also, that lady, yeah, that one standing right there, also looking at you like she's gonna kill you. She can. You're stupid. I love seeing Shaka recognize, and I mean, like, there are other like Sanji, if he would stop stimping for a second, he would be in the lineup too, right? Like, there's other characters in this crew that are very strong, that are very formidable. Frankie could also do a lot of damage if he stopped fanboying, but the reality is that's what they're doing right now, and we've got Zoro and Robin, and I appreciate the recognition of how powerful this crew is, and like, come on. You're not gonna be able to take them. But also Lilith probably has some pretty killer inventions that she could pull out and do a lot of damage with too, so I mean, who knows? But anyway, Zoro does then deliver an awesome line saying basically, I've got some demands and you're gonna listen. And it was so good. I do wonder why that was immediately dropped in the story, because just a couple chapters later, we see them arriving on the island, and Zoro and Brook are just like, we're gonna guard the ship. So like, what was the demand? What was it? And I'm sure Oda's gonna circle back around. I'm sure whatever it is that Zoro said to Lilith has been said by the next time we see them, and Lilith is in agreement and is off to go do whatever it is that Zoro said. But I would like to know what it was, because that was a really killer line, and then we don't get the follow-up, which is very Oda. So in the beginning, we talked about the world and how much I'm enjoying exploring this world so far, but I also I want to talk a little bit about the implications of these inventions, because the fact that you can automatically, immediately, seemingly without the help of humans, be able to just produce really tasty food. I mean, it's Luffy and Bonnie and Chopper who are our test subjects, and I feel like none of them are probably very picky, but assumedly really tasty foods without any without any human intervention other than just providing ingredients. A lot of cool gadgets that we saw being used by Vegapunk as well as some other people. I don't know, the implications of how much Vegapunk's inventions could truly change the world if he had any interest in introducing these to the world. I don't know what Vegapunk's interest level is in changing the world though. I mean, a lot of these inventions look like they could make the world better, like they could provide some extreme amazing aid to people within the world. So maybe the reason he is choosing these particular inventions is because he has the world's interest in mind, or maybe it's just because he thinks they're neat and he doesn't actually care about changing the world. He just cares about getting what's in his brain out into the world, and then once he's invented something, he's like, check, next idea. You know what I mean? And so I wonder how much of these things that could potentially truly change the world, he's just like, I don't care about that though. Distribute it if you want. I have more ideas up here. I'm not worried about mass producing this. I'm not worried about finding a way to get this into people's hands. I'm on to the next one, you know what I mean? But I do also love that in the midst of seeing all these inventions, Oda does his typical Oda thing, which is, look at all this lore, look at all the implications, look at all these amazing things. Now also I'm gonna have humor running alongside of it to balance out the information that's being dumped on you. So we have Luffy and Bonnie and Chopper interacting with these holograms and with this food and with all this stuff and doing it in the most hilarious way. And Oda did such a good job of taking a character that was already interesting, but that I didn't really know that well, and instantly making her feel like she belongs hanging out with this crew. Like the way she interacts with the food and the way she eats to the point of seemingly almost bursting right alongside Chopper and Luffy. And then the whole time we have Jinbei's little comments that just solidify that he totally belongs with us, like him laughing along with them and saying, oh no, I didn't eat too much. This is just the way I look. Taking Chopper's hat in the midst of action and tucking it in his little shirt. When everybody gets an outfit change, Chopper looks amazing, but also Jinbei looks awesome in his floral Hawaiian shirt, and he's just like, hey, this is great. Super glad they had this. Like, I love him. I'm so endeared to Jinbei, but now I'm also so endeared to Bonnie, and just getting those quick flashes of her interacting with the crew so seamlessly and feeling like she belongs here with them, and then immediately digging into the emotions of what she's been through and seeing her have to face her dad again. I mean, like, this is a really big deal. Bonnie, who seemed, according to the quick brief little flashback we got, a little vision of her dad lifting her up and smiling and looking so genuinely happy for the first time that we've seen in this entire manga, and seeing the true Kuma, at least in the eyes of Bonnie. And then we know that, at least according to our knowledge, the last time Bonnie saw Kuma was on the Knot Island, was on Sabati, or however you say it, and when Kuma was being controlled and chained up and treated in this horrifying way by the celestial dragons. And so she knows that her father, who was once, at least to her, good and kind, and his very self has been ripped from him, that he has been changed so drastically, and his freedom has been stolen. He's been humiliated and treated as an object. And now the next time she sees him is in this pacifista form, and seeing her not being willing to allow Luffy to harm what is not her father, like, she does not need to be expected to be acting logically and soundly in this moment. I think her very visceral, emotional, illogical response made so much sense for what she's been through and what she's seen up to this point, and I really appreciated such a raw, illogical reaction to seeing that pacifista. She doesn't owe anyone sound reasoning in this moment, especially when she can back that up by immediately just changing everybody's age and essentially disengaging the pacifista. Like her saying, don't hurt him, and blocking Luffy from engaging in this fight, and then changing everybody's age so that she handled the situation. She can handle it. So she's allowed to just feel today. We're gonna let her just feel. And I really appreciate Oda making her feel so seamlessly incorporated into the crew, and then hitting us with those standard One Piece impactful, amazing emotions. And it always lands. Like anytime he does something like this, it always lands. He handles trauma, like displaying trauma, so well. And then we also get the reveal at the end of this chapter that CP9 is looking to take Vegapunk out and like, don't ask questions. We're just the assassins. We don't try to figure out the why. And I do find it interesting that I said CP9 the world government is trying to do it, and they've just issued CP9 to do it. But I do find it interesting that the world government all of a sudden, after the Reverie, after we're introduced to Emu, or however you're supposed to say his name, after all these things happen, after they're not able to break into Wano, and Green Bull shows up in what, in my opinion, looks like a desperate attempt to just be able to do something, to be able to succeed somewhere. And now the world government is all of a sudden like, you're wiped off the map. We're gonna kill this guy that we have had in our employ, that we have forced to work for us for all these years. He's gone. I don't know, like, what in the world is the world government doing? To me, it looks like they're flailing. To me, it looks like we realize that things are going bad. So I don't know. They're just like, done with that. Done with that. Go. Why? Is it because they have something bigger in mind? Or is it because they're trying to eliminate everything that looks like it could stand in their way? Like Vegapunk obviously has connections with the Revolutionary Army. Maybe they've finally figured that out and now they're ready to take him out. I don't know what the reasoning here is, but that's certainly a conflict that's going to be coming into play very, very soon. Oh, another thing that we got in all this in relation to Bonnie and Kuma is Jinbei basically saying, let me tell you what I know about your dad. He's terrible. He's done some really bad things. And I'm just like, Jinbei. Like, she's barely holding herself together. She's literally sitting there near tears, and you're just like, so Kuma the tyrant. And it's like, Jinbei, just how about let's start this conversation by saying, I know some rumors about your dad. I've heard some things about your dad. You clearly care about him. Can you tell us your story? But instead he's just like, oh, you're about to cry over your dad that you clearly care about? I heard he sucks. Jinbei, where's your tact? But why did he do it this way? It's because Oda's trying to do some standard misdirection. Like, no, this isn't the real story. The world government is very clearly happy to rewrite history. They have no issue with framing people, giving them false legacies, false histories, so that they can justify to the world what they're doing. They are a self-serving, evil, manipulative group of people who will do what it takes to stay in power. And if somebody opposes them, then they'll rewrite their history so that they can justify imprisoning them. And that's exactly what I think is being done here, especially with the way Oda revealed this piece of Kuma's backstory, which I understand that Kuma has been called Kuma the Tyrant for a while now, but that's still just a title. That's still just a false history, in my opinion. But the way he revealed it, not by Bonnie saying, yeah, my dad was once a tyrant, but then he joined the Revolutionary Army, and then he protected you guys, the Straw Hats. So, like, he's turned around. No, that wasn't what was happening. Jinbei was saying, here's what I've heard, and Bonnie was saying, well, don't believe everything you hear. You know, like, her reaction seemed to be clearly somebody who's sick and tired of hearing propaganda, false propaganda about her dad, who was a good man. There's a lot of, plus she also dropped the reveal that he's part of a special people, a special race. My patrons told me was the other translation, which, I mean, like, I know we don't know anything and everybody's speculating. Lunarian, the idea that he could be a Lunarian is definitely on the table. One of my patrons mentioned that he could have, like, ripped his wings off, which honestly fits. Like, if we are to believe that Kuma submitted himself for all of this, like, let's say Bonnie was captured and he gave himself up as to get her back, to save her, to protect her. Or I think that it's certainly possible that Kuma, as a member of the Revolutionary Army, said, I'm going to submit myself to this experimentation, to this body augmentation, to this mind thing that they're going to do to me. And there's a reason. He submitted himself to it so that he could get closer to something, so that he could feed them information, who knows what. But it's certainly possible that Kuma did this all on purpose to serve the Revolutionary Army, to serve taking down the world government, and he's submitted himself to all this torture that he's undergone, and part of that is ripping off his wings so that he could be submitted as not a Lunarian. But we also know that Vegapunk and the Revolutionary Army are in cahoots. It's already been hinted at with how Kuma made a deal with Vegapunk to keep his mind intact to the point that he could protect the Sunny. I don't know, there's a lot of ideas floating around in my head. It's also certainly possible. See, here, okay, this is why I kind of this is why I'm entertaining the idea of him being a Lunarian, even though there's a lot of things that would indicate that he's not, like his hair color and his lack of wings. But one of the reasons why is because a big prominent feature of Oda's storytelling is when he's going to introduce a new element, he introduces it early. He starts reintroducing the idea into the story, and then he's like, oh, by the way, this person is that thing, right? Or, oh, by the way, this person is connected to that thing that we've been talking about in kind of more of a low-key way. So Lunarians have not been low-key. They've been very forefront important. So having them a really big part of the story suddenly, and then, oh, by the way, Kuma's one too, and here's why he doesn't look exactly like them. Or, and it could also just be a mixed race thing, you know, like he could be like half Lunarian. And so he doesn't have all the Lunarian features. But anyway, there's also the potential that Kuma is one of the races that came from the moon that live on Skypiea now. I think there's 3 races like that. The reason I say that is because with this being a sci-fi world, we're also reintroducing a lot of things that are calling back to Skypiea. The most obvious one is that, you know, the floor was bouncy and cloud-like, just like Skypiea. But there were a couple of mentions that tied to Skypiea, so he could certainly be one of those races, which would explain why his hair color is different. Doesn't explain the lack of wings, but again, he could have ripped those off in order to submit himself. I don't know. There's a lot of like it could be that, it could be that, it could be, there's tons. And I'm sure everybody's been theorizing. So I'm just gonna leave it because I don't know. Whatever it is that's special about Kuma, whether he is fully that race or he's, you know, mixed race and that's why he doesn't fully look like whatever it is that he is, Bonnie is probably at least partially that as well. So whatever it is that's special about Kuma, this thing could show up with Bonnie too. It's also possible that, you know, Kuma is her stepdad or something, you know, that Kuma isn't her biological dad and he married her mom after Bonnie was born, so she doesn't have that blood tie, that racial tie to him, so she may not have some of the things that I don't know. There's so many different ways that this could go. But I think now it's probably time to talk about the big fight because that's a really big feature of these chapters and I haven't even gotten into it yet. Blackbeard shows up. Blackbeard shows up and challenges Law. He reveals that he's after the One Piece too, which is just not even mildly surprising to me. The cover stories, I assume everybody, I've not been watching as many videos as I meant to be because it's just been a busy month for me. So I don't know all the things that people are theorizing or saying at this point. So pardon me if I'm being repetitive. I usually try whatever everybody is saying, I try not to fixate too hard on because I don't want to just be saying the same thing as everybody else. So pardon me. I assume everybody has already made the guess of what was going on in the cover stories. As soon as we started seeing Whole Cake Island being frozen over, it was like, oh, Kuzan's here, right? And then pudding got stolen. And to me, I immediately was like, oh, because of her third eye thing. Like, it could be awakened, she could be, okay. And so the reason that was such an easy logical jump for me was because when I made that video like a year ago about who I would put on my crew if I were creating my pirate crew, but I made the rule no straw hats. That meant I couldn't have Robin, and so I did some research on like, okay, is there any way to get to the One Piece other than Robin? And, you know, Pudding's third eye was brought to my attention again. And so she's just been on my mind because I love Pudding as a character. And I think that it's a very very obvious thing that Oda's doing, that that she could potentially do this. Like, he wouldn't set that up and then do nothing with it. So anyway, I assume this has been talked about. But to me, when I saw that Kuzan was almost certainly in Whole Cake Island and Pudding was being kidnapped by a member of Blackbeard's crew, it's like, oh, okay, he's going after the One Piece because she's basically the only shot they have unless they want to steal Robin, which probably isn't going to happen. I'm still team Kuzan is not, Aokiji is not truly a member of Blackbeard's crew. There's an agenda there. He's gonna backstab him. I do not think that Kuzan just randomly was like, I'm disengaging from the world government. I'm not loyal to them anymore. I'm my own man. No, actually, I'm gonna join Blackbeard. That sounds like a good time. I'm gonna do that now. I don't buy it. I don't know if Kuzan is good or if he's doing something else, but I don't think, I mean, I think he's a member of Sword, but I definitely don't think that he is a member of Blackbeard's crew through and through. I think that he is just there to serve some sort of purpose, to get some sort of intel, to get really close to Blackbeard, to backstab him. But anyway, Blackbeard's after the One Piece, and Blackbeard and Law are doing a winner takes all poneglyphs fight. And it was so fun. It was really chaotic. The paneling and who was talking and the chaos of it all, I assume Oda was trying to reflect the chaos of the fight, but it was very confusing to read at first, and it was easy to follow. However, or at least not for me, I don't know what your experience was. However, I also loved it. It was interesting to me that Blackbeard came into the fight knowing that, I mean, like, he came in saying, Law, I'm gonna take what you know about poneglyphs so that I can get to the One Piece. But he didn't do any sort of research or try to strategize at all. Like, Blackbeard has shown himself that he can be a strategist. Like, his plan to take down Whitebeard and his introduction into the Impel Down chaos. Like, I feel like he's not a Luffy that always just charges in doing nothing. But then again, his right-hand man was like, Blackbeard coming in without a plan. This is what happens when you don't have a plan. But here I am like, come on, man. You should have had some sort of plan for this. I mean, Law and his crew really showed themselves to be worth something in this fight, and it was awesome. I loved seeing them come together and team up to take this crew down, to sink their ship. I love when Law was like, so, you're all devil fruit users. Yeah, we're gonna sink your ship. Like, that was so clever. I love seeing it and actually seeing his crew in action and be able to do stuff. I think he is a fishman on the crew. I feel like the whole Pokemon blast thing that he did, I think he's a fishman. I don't know, maybe he's not, but holy cow. But this crew that has kind of become a meme because they're constantly being overpowered and not really showing themselves, showed themselves today. And it was so much fun to watch. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of seeing them be strategists, think through. I mean, like, they were ambushed and Law just immediately started calling out orders and they worked together as a team, and it was awesome. I also really love seeing all of Blackbeard's crew's new fruits. You know, they were being called out there at the beginning, and I'm seeing some definite pair-ups, you know, like the guy who has the Sick fruit. And I will, whenever we do have the Blackbeard versus the Straw Hats fight, we've got the guy with the Sick fruit going up against the reindeer who wants to cure all diseases. And we've got the guy with the strong fruit, I think it was called, going up against, you know, he can lift up a whole mountain. And then we've got Zoro, who very early on in the series lifted up a whole building and can cut through stuff. And I don't know, like, I'm seeing some very clear pair-ups in this crew, which I think is gonna make it really fun. And the chaos of this fight, I don't know, it really just looks like it's not gonna be a Blackbeard versus Luffy fight, but it's gonna be a crew versus crew fight when that finally does come. And I'm really excited about that. I also just like that Blackbeard isn't the next Kaido. You know, he's not the strongest guy in the world. He's not someone who can take 1,000,000 punches and not even flinch. He's someone who is very human. And I like that because that's never been what I've expected from Blackbeard. I never really have thought, oh man, I can't wait for a Blackbeard fight because he's gonna be nigh untouchable. No, like, he's always come off as very human to me. He's always come off as someone who can be overpowered. What's interesting about him isn't that he's the strongest guy in the room. What's interesting about him is that he's incredibly smart. He can be very strategic. For some reason, he wasn't in this fight. Like, dude, I understand that you may not know everything about Law's crew, but their ship is a spaceship. Their ship is a submarine. Why did I say spaceship? Whatever. Their ship is a submarine. I feel like there's some very clear cues that you could have looked at and been like, oh, they're a nautical crew. But like, whatever, it doesn't matter. He's proven himself that he can be a strategist. His body is weird, according to Marco the Phoenix, which still don't know what that means entirely. He doesn't sleep. Why? I still don't know about that either. He can hold 2 devil fruits in his body and use them both, which I'm still mad at you. Every time he uses Whitebeard's fruit, I hate it. I hate it. It hurts me every time. But anyway, what's interesting about Blackbeard, what makes facing off against him so exciting, is his parallel to Luffy and the fact that there's a lot of mystery wrapped up in him and not the fact that he's the strongest guy in the room. So I like seeing his vulnerability. I like seeing his humanity despite all these mysteries wrapped up around him. I think that that makes him a much more interesting villain in my opinion. Oh, also people that showed up in the middle of the fight, we reference Pudding, and there she is chilling in the brig. And then also the secondhand man showed up to be irritated at Blackbeard for rushing in without a plan. So they've been in the cover story. We've already acknowledged that. Kuzan came with this guy with the funny hat. And what's his name? I've got it written down. Augur? That's what he's gonna be called for me. Kuzan and Augur went to Whole Cake Island and stole away Pudding, and then there she is in the chapter. So the question is, does that mean that this cover story that we've been seeing that happened a few weeks ago? Or it's also possible that the reason Augur was there with Kuzan, because it looks like Kuzan did all the work. So the reason Augur came along too is because they showed up, Kuzan froze everything and grabbed Pudding, and then Augur said, okay, bye, and teleported with Pudding back to the ship. Now, did he also teleport with Kuzan too? Did Kuzan then get left behind and go off on some other side mission that he was assigned to? I don't know. But if Kuzan does show up in this fight, the tides will be changing. Because while Law's nautical crew has a big upper hand against this very devil fruit heavy crew, Kuzan showing up would make a difference. I mean, yes, he has a devil fruit too, but we've already seen him freeze an entire sea. So, and plus the whole punk hazard thing. Yeah, there's a lot that he could do. I forgot to mention in the video that Pudding drops the bomb of the hint that Big Mom might still be alive, which there were hints at her crew mentioning one of Smoothie, it was Smoothie, that said, if you think that Big Mom is being taken out now, you're a fool. And then Big Mom's final words were also very much like, yeah, I'm not done yet. I mean, I don't want it. I'm so done with Big Mom. If Kaido were to return, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Let's keep going with Kaido. He's the strongest man in the world. If he didn't get killed when we thought that he was killed, then like, sure, that makes sense. But I'm Big Mom. I just don't want it. I'm just so done with her. Big Mom is a character. I'm not gonna throw a fit. If Big Mom returns, which it looks like that might be happening, if Big Mom returns, I'm not gonna throw a fit over it. I won't throw a Big Mom level tantrum, wedding cake tantrum. However, if she returns, I would like to do something with her. Like, she is a character that has so much potential. She is a character that there's so many interesting things that we could do with her. So if she returns, can we do one for once? Can we do something with her, please, other than her just being like rampaging or really strong? That'd be swell. Like, let's explore her trauma a little bit. Let's go spend some time with her kids and let them acknowledge that, yeah, we're kind of slaves. We didn't choose to be devoted to her, and she rules with an iron fist, and I'm not happy here. Let's have a rebellion with her kids. Let's do something interesting with her. Then yeah, bring her back. But if it's just gonna be more of the same, like, I'm so Whatever. She may come back. I hope something interesting happens with her for once. Sorry for the sass. Also, I forgot to mention that Law got turned into a lady. So it's like his female design looks awesome. He looked awesome. Anyway, we end the chapter, the final chapter in this section, we end it on Vegapunk calling Dragon and saying, yeah, I'm gonna die soon. So I assume he knows that the world government is after him, that they're trying to take him out, and he has accepted that that's just what's going to happen. So I wonder if it's another sort of like, okay, I'm about to be taken out. I assume Vegapunk could defend himself. I mean, there's 7 of him. There's 6 branches of him that are all young and spry and full of awesome inventions. And then you've got him, who is the mastermind of it all. I mean, we have an army of 7 very intelligent people with a lot of very powerful inventions. I feel like, I don't know, he could at least try, but he's accepted his death. So I do wonder if this is just part of his master plan, and he's just like, all right, it's time, Dragon. We've been planning for this. We've been expecting this. So let's initiate whatever we've been planning to do whenever I die. You know, like, is it one of those, or is it, I never wanted to work for the world government. This has never been my plan. I've been forced to do this for too long. Now I'm gonna die. About time. I don't know, he doesn't really come off like that to me though. Like, he comes off as, I've got too many inventions I want to invent. Like, I don't really feel like dying today. I feel like continuing to invent. So I feel like he must have some sort of invention that he's been holding back, that he's been creating, that he's been making, that whenever he dies, now the revolutionary, like, it's set, something is coming from that. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I am excited to see whatever is about to happen next, because so far the beginning of this arc has been killing it on all fronts. The awesome Straw Hat moments, the amazing emotions, the incredible lore. Now we also have the awesome fights and a lot of build up for what I think is going to be an absolute avalanche of answers coming all together at once. I'm really excited. These have been awesome chapters, and this has been a long review. So let me know what you think. How have you felt about these chapters? What are some things that I didn't focus on, that I didn't fixate on, that you would like to continue chatting about? Let me know in the comments. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the second channel. I do a live reading of every chapter on my Patreon. That's also linked in the description if you want to check that out. I'll see you again soon. Bye.